Hey guys, my name is Hudson, and today we're going to be talking about trees and how to plant them. So the first step in planting trees is not actually to just grab your shovel and go to town and start digging. The first step is to call ahead of time to the cable companies, to the utility companies, and have them come out and mark the area that you're going to be digging in to make sure that there's nothing underground that you're going to hit. Because if you hit a gas line or an electric line, that's really dangerous to you and the surrounding stuff. And if you hit the cable line, that's no good either. So the first thing we're going to do is call the utilities and have this marked out. Don't dig until you do that, but we've already done that. So step number 2 is to measure twice, dig once, as my dad would always say. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the root ball. I'm getting 31 inches, and I'm going to increase that by 2 inches, and that is going to be the diameter of my hole, divided by half, and I'm going to put that on the center. Now I'm going to create 2 dots, and I'm going to do that all the way around the tree. This is the area that we're going to have to dig out. Now when we're digging this hole, before we start, we want to remember a few things. If this is the ground level, we want to dig this hole straight down and then straight across the bottom. We want it to be a cylinder that goes straight into the ground, kind of like a trash can that you just sunk right in there. You want to leave the hole circumference a little larger than the tree because you want to invite roots to grow into that new space and really help the tree settle in. But now that we've measured out how wide to dig the hole, we want to measure how deep to dig it. So this tree is going to sit at about 20 inches. The reason you don't want to go too deep is that you don't want to suffocate the tree. Trees, much like people, don't do well when they're underground. The important thing is to keep the tree above a space where it's going to drown either with dirt or with water. Finally, it's time to dig a hole. Now, when you're digging a hole, you can really damage your bod. So to avoid doing that, try to not just use your arm strength and your back strength. What you want to do is use your weight and the way that your body and the shovel is designed to do the work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step up here on the shovel. Now I'm going to make sure that the shovel blade is going straight up and down more or less. I'm going to just let my weight push down on the shovel while I work the handle forward and backwards. And what this does is this works the shovel into hard clay soil or even soft soil. Now that the shovel is all the way in the ground, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the lever of the shovel to pull back, and when it pops a little, I'm just going to take it out. I'm not going to take the dirt out, but I'm just going to take the shovel out, and I'm going to move to the next spot along the circle, and I'm just work my way all the way around this tree doing that. Now I've gotten all the way around the circle and back to where I started. What I'm going to do is take my shovel, and I'm going to divide this up like a pie, or like a weird pie, because it's going to be like in sections rather than in slices. So I'm just going to go across like this and chop it up because the grass is holding together all of that dirt. And so I just want to give it a little space so that it can come out easy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift up. I'm going to set this stuff right to the side. You could even put the grass directly into your wheelbarrow to take it away, but you will need some of the underlying dirt to pack back in around the tree. Now that the grass is removed, we can start digging into pure dirt. What we're going to do is we're just going to take this dirt out. We're going to pile it to the side. And I like to start in the middle because it's a lot easier to dig if you start in the middle and then work your way to the edges instead of the other way around. That when you dig to your edges that you go all the way and that you don't let it slowly taper in, because that is the tendency. So the way you do that is once you get to the edges, you just make sure that your shovel is aimed straight up and down this way. You can put your dirt right next to the hole, because you're going to reuse some of it later on. All right, I think my hole is deep enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shovel and lay it flat on the ground like this. You want to make sure that the handle is actually flat against the ground instead of raised on one side. So I'm going to make sure that it's flat, and then I'm going to measure the depth of my hole. I'm going for 20 inches, 19. That's pretty good. What I don't want is for it to be too deep because then it will drown. So now what I get to do is I get to take this tree and I get to roll it into place. Tree bases are conical, and so as such they will move like this as you roll them. So what you do is every couple rolls you just take the tree and you pull it back like that. You don't want to grab too high because then you might snap off the tree depending on how big it is. This one's pretty big, so I don't have to worry about that. But what I want to do is I want to make sure the rim of the tree lines up and rolls in with the rim of my hole. This will make sure that more or less it's going to end up in the hole standing mostly upright. And as I get closer, I'm going to just make little adjustments. You see how the rim of the tree is lining up with the rim of the hole? I'm going to take the tree I'm going to just readjust it so that it is pointed towards the center of the hole. And then in we go. That's not so bad. So now it's in the hole, but you might notice it is a little wobbly. I'm not gonna worry about it too much because you'll see what we do in the next step. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of this dig out and I'm gonna put it right back in the hole. So what I wanna do is I wanna go in my hole, my cylinder hole, I wanna put 1/3 of original soil in there, and I'm gonna pack that down real firm. When I'm doing this, what I'm also doing is I'm gonna take the tree and I'm gonna back up like 20 feet that way. And I'm gonna line the tree up with some straight man-made structure. The edge of a building or a power pole or something like that is gonna work really, really well because those are required to be straight by code. Now, every tree is natural. They kind of do this. So what you're going for is this main stem at the bottom and then the tip, like where is it headed? Or if you have a clump form, you're just going for the main body of the tree. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back up here and I'm gonna find a natural edge. It needs to go this way a little bit. I'm gonna bop it that way and let that loose stuff settle down in there. Then I'm gonna back off again. It's gotta go that way a little more. If you have an assistant, what you can do is have the assistant pry on the tree in the direction that it needs to go while you eye it up and then come and put in backfill. Pry on the tree here and pack it in. Okay, it's pretty good this way, but the real question is, when I look this way, is it going to be all right? Oh, it's good. Now is the tricky part. You gotta double check it from the way you started, because if I'm correct, and I am, it's gone back this way. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Now, I'm not pushing on this, I'm holding it here. You don't wanna pry on the actual tree stem. What you wanna do is pry with your shovel on the base of the tree, let that make it go where it's supposed to, and then just lock yourself in position and pack in. It looks good from both directions, so we're gonna call that straight. Now that the tree is straight, we're gonna do a very essential part of tree planting. We're gonna make sure that the bottom third of your hole is full of soil, and then we're just gonna pack it in. And what this does is this is going to make sure that the tree stays in this upright position without having to be staked in. You can also use your foot and just stomp it down. We're gonna cut back all of this twine. We're gonna take that off and we're gonna peel back the burlap and tuck it around the edges of the tree. At this point, if you have fertilizer tablets, you can put them in and around the tree, and then you can backfill around the burlap. Two things when you backfill. Number one, air is death to roots. So what you wanna do is chop down along the side of the root ball and make sure that you are settling in the dirt around the actual tree itself. Secondly, what you wanna do is make sure that you don't get dirt on top of the root ball, because that will drown it. It will drown. At this point, you can clean up this mess right here, take it to your junk pile or to your truck and dispose of it. Now that your dig out dirt is taken care of, it's time to think about making this tree look nice in the rest of your landscape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure out 3 feet from the edge of the tree. This is gonna be a 6-foot mulch ring in total. So 3 feet out, we're just gonna make a little dot. We're gonna do that all the way around the tree. And then we're gonna make it a solid line. So now that our tree ring is painted out, we're just gonna strip the sod here. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna go around the entire tree. And I'm just gonna do this, cut out the grass, and then I'm gonna come along the grass and I'm gonna make sunbursts going directly out from the tree. And then I'm gonna come along and just systematically strip out the grass, put it aside. Now the next step we're gonna wanna do is mulch. When you put in your mulch ring, you wanna just spread it around, make sure that it's nice and smooth. You wanna spread it to all the areas and all the way to the edge of your bed. Now up here next to the tree, you don't wanna be too high because mulch will do the same thing that soil will do. It will drown, in that it will drown the tree if it is too high on the trunk. So you wanna just make sure that you're down to dirt right around the trunk and just create a little bowl right there, and then mount it up and let it pillow on out to the edge of the bed. You know, it's a tree bed, it needs some pillows. That's what you're doing here. So then just take your rake and just make sure that it is smooth all the way around, and then flip your rake upside down. Just go around the edge and pop the mulch up. This gives it a nice tamped look all the way around the circle. At this point, I like to use a blower to clean up. Notice how I was careful to keep the grass and stuff that I was blowing from getting into the bed again. This just keeps your mulch nice for as long as possible. The next step we're gonna do is watering. You remember how we talked about air being death to roots? What that water is going to do is it's going to settle the dirt in better than you could ever do it by packing it, and it's gonna lock it in place around those roots. Whenever you plant a tree, make sure that you water it at the end. Normally I would use a hose for this and just leave it on a slow trickle, making sure that I got all of the area that we had disturbed. But I'm pretty far from anywhere, so I'm gonna use some 5-gallon buckets instead. I'm just gonna go right here at the center, all the way around. Oh yeah, that's nice. And I'm gonna do that one more time, just to give it all the water that it needs. Now you might notice that this messed up our mulch. Not to worry, we can just go back over it. Thanks for joining me. That's how you plant a tree. Big thanks to my coworker Eden and Andrew, the property manager, and congratulations to Headwaters Church on your new trees.